trust is a beautiful thing. And of course, everyone wants trust. What we forget sometimes is that in order to receive more trust, in order to actually genuinely, not just again, intellectually understand, but embody trust at the deepest level, the way to get there is actually to a lot of times be forced into the opposite. So if I say I want to live a more trust-filled life, then I believe the universe responds to that intention highly intelligently, and it essentially orchestrates experiences and opportunities for me to look at all the areas in which I'm not embodying that trust that I say I want to embody. So it's going to create external circumstances that allow me to see that, because the fastest way for me to step into more trust is for that to become so clearly illuminated that I actually make it conscious, right? It goes from being unconscious to becoming conscious. And in that moment, I have the opportunity to choose how I want to relate to that. And so I think the gift on the other side of a lot of these, like truly they're initiations. When we make big declarations to life and we say, I want more of X, life will orchestrate initiations for us so that we can actually receive those big intentions. And I think at the end of the day, it's a question of aesthetic. Like, what is the human experience that you want to have in this one precious life? You know, some people are going to choose predominantly security. That's going to be maybe their core value is like, I want to feel safe and secure. And I want to know how I'm going to start my days and how I'm going to end my days. And I want to feel that consistency. And that's what's true for me. And that's my aesthetic. And so I'm not interested in going and pushing the envelope and like exploring, looking at my deepest, darkest traumas and wounds. Like, that's not interesting to me in this lifetime. And that's beautiful. There's no right way to be. Like, truly, I don't believe there's one right path. I think that we get to choose, and we also are existing inside of a larger context. And the larger context that I see from my lens of what's happening on the planet right now in our lifetime is that there's an acceleration of what I believe is an evolutionary process, where essentially having spent many, many, many lifetimes in, again, this sort of paradigm of separation, or what you could call just like a state of unconsciousness, is coming to an end. And we're moving now very quickly into a different age. And what that means more, I guess, tangibly is just that our system, like our actual nervous system, the electromagnetic frequency of our being, you know, what we actually are when you look at us past just like the flesh and the muscles and the bones and the organs, like we are receiving information in the form of light that's coming into our planet that we are able to embody, and that can give us a greater sense of freedom and choice and creator consciousness if we choose to go through these initiations. That said, if we choose not to, if we fight the process, this movement that is happening on a more collective level, if we resist it because we're afraid and we want to cling to what was, that's when I see a lot of suffering happening, because we're kind of resisting what is. And so do we need to opt in? You know, how much choice do we really have? Like, these are all really good questions to ask. For me personally, like the only option is to dive in at first. And what I found is the more that I've been willing to go into those uncomfortable places and look at myself in the mirror and really own like my blind spots as well. And instead of being ashamed of them or pushing them aside or pretending they're not there, but actually like including them and integrating them, the more free I become for life to use me as a vessel. So when you say what's the reward on the other side, like to me, it's surrender to something that is bigger than me coming through me, that shapes and molds the words that come through my mouth without me having to think about them, right? Like that being a steward of the current of life itself, to me, is the ultimate expression of being alive. And if I can be that, I can be in a state of flow and I can be in a state of presence. And that's where I find the trust, and that's where I find the beauty, and that's where I find the richness. It's not when I fabricate an idea of what my life should look like and then try and force my way into that. It's actually the complete opposite. It's taking my hands off the steering wheel in a big way and allowing.
Yeah, and that allowing manifests as often a lot of action in different periods. Like I love the Taoist saying, the master does nothing, yet leaves nothing undone. And it refers to the state of consciousness we all can inhabit where we surrender to the flow of what life wants of us. And that can look like often massive action. It doesn't mean you're inert sitting in a cave somewhere. It means you're doing what life is asking of you. And I think the purification process where we experience polarities and discomfort and challenges, the invitation, I guess, in this conversation, what you're pointing to is that you can choose how to perceive anything in your life. And when tragedy happens, when challenge occurs, you can choose to see it as a gift that shit becomes fertilizer for new things to grow in your life. Or it can be things are happening to me consciousness. And of course, it's important to make space for the part of us that really feels like a victim of life. And I find it really awe-inspiring to read about individuals like Viktor Frankl and people who have experienced immense tragedy where your family gets murdered, you might get put into a gas chamber, and you're still able to choose an empowering perspective that allows you to be of greatest service to those around you. And I think that those are powerful people that stand as pillars for reminders of what's possible in life. And then it's a fundamental reorientation of perspective, and you start to see these challenges as real opportunities in life. And I love this quote from Khalil Gibran that kind of speaks to this that I found this morning, actually. I have learned silence from the talkative, toleration from the intolerant, and kindness from the unkind. Yet strange, I am ungrateful to these teachers. And it's interesting, right? Like, thank God there is a polarity of experience. If it was just one monotone note throughout our whole life, it would be a very boring movie. And so this perspective, this contrast of experience is actually really beautiful. And usually it takes hindsight to witness that beauty, but it doesn't always require it, you know? And I think that's where the spiritual rubber meets the road, where you get to actually experience the beauty while you're in the process of transformation, because the more times you've gone through it, the more times you know what's to come. It's like, I know what's on the other side of this pain, and it's an insight, it's a lesson, it's some sort of growth.